Hi everyone, and welcome to my unboxing and review video of a miniature from the current Crippled God Foundry Kickstarter called Shattered Hell. I was lucky enough to win a mini from the ongoing Kickstarter via Twitter, so it's not sponsored. All views on this are my own. I'll put all the details of the Kickstarter down below in the description, and you can see some of the bits and pieces here. I'm going to show firstly how the miniature comes out, or at least how it arrived with me, and then I'll go away, I'll put it together, and then I'll show you what the finished mini looks like as well, so you get a good idea of what they look like. So here is the miniature itself, and I have to say my first thought on seeing it was it's a little bigger than I'd kind of guessed from the Kickstarter images. Sometimes with those images it can be a little difficult to get exactly what size the minis are and things. But this guy, just this piece here, is just under 8 centimeters or 18 millimeters tall. So he's a big boy. And the detail on there is really good. It's really crisp. I'm very pleased with it. You can see this is a sort of fiery chest that he's got here. He's also got some teeth going on here, which are very clearly moulded. There's no lack of detail or anything on them. Similarly with the wings, you can see lots of detail on there. It's very bright, unfortunately, here, so some of the detail isn't coming out quite as clearly as it might do, but I really am pleased with this. You can see here, this is the sword as well, and the flames coming out of there are beautiful. So the level of detail is fantastic. In terms of flashing and extra material and things like that, there's not a great deal on here, I have to say. There's a few bits. Resin always has these very small bits of kind of almost transparent material there, which needs to come off. But taking that off is so simple. If it's large enough and easy enough to get to, you can do it with your fingers. Otherwise, just a pair of pliers. Here we go. There's a better example there. So this stuff here, in fact, there you go. I've just taken it off. So that's not a problem at all. There's not really very much to worry about in terms of mold lines. One of the beauties of backing something on a Kickstarter is you're getting the very first uses of the molds, and there's less chance for the molds to slightly degrade, and that's when molds slip, that's when you tend to get really pronounced mold lines and flashing and things, and there's very, very little of that on here at all. I'm seeing very little that's a problem. So as far as I'm concerned, the detail is very clear and very well molded. There's very little extra material. So I think first impressions are very positive. I'm now going to take this away and put it together, and I'll show you what the completed miniature looks like. One of the things that sometimes it's good to look at is sort of how well the pieces fit together and all those things. So I'll do that, and we'll take a look at the completed miniature, and I'll show you a sort of human-sized 28 or 32 millimeter scale miniature as well, just to give you a better impression of size. And we'll go from there. So I'll see you in a minute. And here we have the assembled piece. And I have to say, I think my initial reactions, my initial views seem to have been borne out really well by this. I'm really happy with the detail on this. I think it looks like a fantastic miniature. The detail is crisp and clear, and it's also just a really nice sculpt, I think. I am really pleased with this. As I initially thought, there isn't a great deal to clear up on this. There's not very much by way of flashing, anything like that. There are a couple of pieces where you can see there are some very slight gaps between the pieces. It's nothing really major. I may fill them a little bit, but honestly, once they're painted, it may be that they don't even really show up anyway. Not a problem really. I mean, all resin miniatures have that to some extent, I think. It went together really nice and easily because it had the kind of plugs and sockets almost where you can just push them in and glue them in. So yeah, it made for a very easy build, and as I say, I'm really pleased with how the miniature turned out. So this miniature, the only downside I would say really is you can see here that when I put it down, it doesn't balance. It topples over backwards, and it didn't come with a base. So if you're buying this, you would want to get a base for it. I have no doubt that once it's glued onto a base, it will stand up absolutely fine. But it isn't balanced to stand up as it comes like that. And as I say, it didn't come with a base. But that's such a small criticism, I guess. I tend to get laser cut MDF bases, which you can get pretty cheap. So a nice big base like that will allow you to really do a kind of a sculpted base, a really scenic base to go with this, which I think would be fantastic. So you'd have to do that yourself, but a very minor concern as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this. His name is Ashvestos, the Pyre Eternal. He is from the line of rulers of the underworld. And obviously, if you want to check out all of these things, as I mentioned at the beginning, you can just follow the link in the description to see everything about the Kickstarter. There are lots of options. You can buy the physical miniatures, or if, like me, you're lucky enough to have a 3D printer, you can actually buy the STL files and print them yourselves, which I think is a really nice option, having both as possibilities. So I've just checked, and on the Kickstarter, it's $24 for this guy, or €20. And I think in the kind of market that there is at the moment, I think that's a very reasonable price. I don't have any issues with that at all. I did mention that I would show you alongside a kind of human-sized mini. So here we have a 32mm scale Stormcast Eternal from Games Workshop. So you can see there is a big difference in size here. This is definitely, we're looking at, big boss of a dungeon, or a real monster of some sort. And for $24, €20, I think that's a very reasonable price. And of course, it being Kickstarter, there are other options that you can go for. There are bundles. There are also stretch goals being unlocked. So I would head over there and have a look. As I say, I think for me, the STL file option is probably perfect. But if you're not lucky enough to have a 3D printer, then you can absolutely get the physical ones from there. So I would definitely recommend having a look. I am always reluctant to actually recommend buying pieces because I'm aware that people are in different financial situations, particularly at the moment. But I absolutely think this is worth the money which is being charged for it. And with it being available on Kickstarter at the moment, there are a number of options of different ways that you can pledge. So do go over, check it out. It's a relatively small company. They're from Greece, and they've been great with me, and I'm sure that the fulfillment of the Kickstarter will be amazing.